Hello again, and welcome to SDVoE Presents Face-to-Face AV with Justin Kennington. That's me, your host, Justin Kennington, and I'm joined today by an industry veteran, Max Kopsho. I've known you as a guy in and around AV over IP for since there was AV over IP, frankly.
Yeah.
So congrats to you on, on that.
Yeah. Congrats and condolences.
Yes, it's been a shorter and a longer road than we've all expected at the same time.
Right.
So Max, you only a few months ago joined Christie, I think as a EVP of Business Development.
Yes. Yep.
So I understand your focus is in there, not only their AV over IP products, their broader, they call it signal processing?
Yes.
Maybe I should let you talk.
So it's image processing.
Image processing.
Yep. And new products that are coming out in that arena, commercialization, and bringing it to the sales team and to our channels.
Okay. And then how that fits in here, that includes the Christie Terra, the AV over IP solution, built on SDVoE.
Yep.
You and I are chatting a minute ago, and I was learning about your new role and what you're bringing to it, and we got onto the topic of, let's call it the sales process, right? And the idea of selling solutions.
Yeah.
I think that's certainly a term we've all heard. It's a term we all hope our sales folks are doing for us. Maybe in some cases it is, maybe in some cases it isn't. But tell us, what does that mean for you? What is selling a solution?
Yeah, and I'll start off by talking about where I kind of came from in my sales career.
Let's do it, yeah.
I think I rarely ever had a sales title.
Right.
So my title was usually training, business development, consult business development, but it always included training. And I think the reason why that ended up being successful, especially in the AV over IP realm, was because I became a person a trusted advisor, right? So people would come and ask me questions about the technology, and then we were able to come around to wherever I work, where those particular solutions or products fit in a solution, and even being able to tell people when a product didn't fit.
Yep.
And so using that as part of my sales career, and then in my new role here, I've been in training for forever, but in sales and training. And so bringing that into Christie, we're continuing to develop the organization and building an insight-led sales organization. People who are consulting with the customers and finding out where their problems are and being able to tell them in advance of a problem that they may not have seen coming because of our relationship with our vendors and suppliers, and then our ability to see the entire market and the roles that we play as subject matter experts and thought leaders in white papers and things like that.
Sure.
Allows us to share some of that information, those insights, with our customers and through our channels, help our channels deal with the customer, the end user, in a different way. In a solutions way.
We've all sat through at one time or another some terrible sales presentation where there's a PowerPoint on the screen and it's being read aloud, and it lists here's the box, here's all the ports on the box, here's how fast they are.
Speeds and feeds, right?
I love this phrase you used, insight led. It speaks to a kind of expertise, a value that the sales professional can bring to this. And everything you said about education, by the way, I'm totally on board with, right? I'm sure you and hopefully all you
SDVoE is really
know about
big about
the SDVoE Academy, because I'm 100% on board with it.
Right.
Education is a great sales tactic, right? And it's a way to bring value, because especially in AV over IP, there's a knowledge gap, there's a skills gap. 5 years ago it was much bigger than it is today.
Sure.
But still, it's hard for a lot of AV professionals to feel confident and to feel comfortable in that conversation with IT. And by the way, I don't think AV sales happen anymore without some conversation with IT.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is arm them, equip them to feel, not to become a CCNA, certified.
Right.
If you want to be an IT person, go be an IT person.
Yeah, which I did. I got 3 CCNAs, one in routing and switching, wireless and security. And then I'm like, why? Because I don't ever get to use it really, but it does help with the conversation, right? It's still that insight led. It's being able to say the right things and know where those doors are going to shut. It's like, oh, you can manage this from anywhere on your network, and the IT guy goes, no, I don't want to do that, right? You just said the wrong thing, and I read it right off the spec sheet. How am I supposed to be? How can I be wrong when the manufacturer told me say this?
Yeah.
And that's where we're kind of like, no, learn to ask more questions. when I was with Thorburn and Associates, we were, we're, even as a consultant, you're still doing a lot of selling. And when we're working with a customer, we're asking a lot of questions. You have the architect. So we're asking the architect question. He goes, why are you asking me all these questions? The other guy didn't. And then it's exactly right. Because, I look at it as that Best Buy sales commercial is where the Best Buy guy is standing in a stadium and the customer is filling the seats, right? So there's thousands and thousands of customers, and one of the customers jumps up and goes, I'm looking for a laptop for my son at school, and boom, the Best Buy guy goes, you need an Asus, XYZ, and it's like that, really one question and you got to his solution. We're building an organization that asks more questions.
Yeah, okay.
That and then talks to, okay, based on that information, here's what I have, and sometimes I don't have it. And I can refer you to.
Well, I think your example of even yourself having some Cisco network training that's going to enable you as the salesperson to bring that value to the customer who might not have that training.
Right.
And say, look, even if you're not the expert on it, you say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Let me go research it for you, or you go research it now that I told you need to look it up. Insight-led sales. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So Christie's doing some great things in products. They always have. So it's what can we do different to also bring those to market? And I think that insight-led organization that is really helping people catch problems before they become problems. And it is getting, you had mentioned it, everything has a network port on it now. Yeah. That's not the question anymore. Yeah. It's like, what am I going to be able to do with this?
Right.
And what shouldn't I do in those
And what makes you think I'm going to allow it on my network?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Less and less we're hearing that, but it's still
it's inevitable now, right? It's everybody's real. Okay, we have to do it.
We
have to put it on the network. How do we make that work for everybody?
Yeah, and you just made me think of another thing is, I think one thing that the AV industry didn't do as well as the network industry does, and now AV's learned to do it, is to make sure that it's known that our AV equipment is mission critical equipment. And no IT guy is going to question whether mission critical equipment goes on the network.
Yeah.
They even let printers on it. If you know networking, the chatty background, the Apple Talk / Bonjour information that constantly runs on a network because of printers, but they allowed it because in order for people to get more work done, in order for them to meet the mission, they needed that. Education, control room, command and control, all these, the AV system is mission critical.
Yeah.
And now network guys go, oh, that's why you need it. I think
that's a really valuable point I hadn't thought of in that way either. And I think even that's an evolution over the past couple of decades. And now, goodness, in the last 2 or 3 years, as Teams and Zooms have come to own all lives,
it's become a very
little business that can get done without these components of the AV system, which, by the way, can only operate on the network. I mean, heck, I could buy everyone a USB printer and solve that problem.
As we went from and then to, right?
But Teams and Zoom, I'm gonna need this on the network, guys. I don't have a choice.
But you got an awful lot of cable, right?
Okay.
Jump in the back of the truck, run the spool out to that guy.
You heard it here first. A matrix switch implementation of Zoom.
There we go. What goes around comes around, or something.
Wow,
like that,
these are some nerdy jokes we got going in here today. Max,
Great.
This was awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks for the chat. Insight-led sales. I'm loving it, and I'm picturing just all of the awful, speeds and feeds discussions that I've had in my life, especially as someone who sat where I sit. Right? I've had a lot of microchip salesmen trying to sell me stuff. Oh boy, those guys can get real speeds and feedsy. You think an AV manufacturer is bad? Try talking to somebody who sells chips.
Yeah, and that's the same thing. When I hear people talking about like another language like that, I hear 1.21 gigawatts flux capacity. I don't know what they're really saying.
The only thing that can generate that kind of energy is a bolt of lightning.
Of course, yeah. And that's how we do it. Hey, maybe the Zoom is time travel through the flux capacitor.
Wow. Tune in next time where we check if Zoom is really time travel through the flux capacitor. Brooke, that's the title of the next video. Max, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe because we're putting these out every week and I don't want you to miss one. Thanks for tuning in to Face to Face AV.